Low-level education. Is this company's shame? At this company, the largest number of 80 people in history gathered for the job offer ceremony. On such a grand stage, I was chosen to give the speech as the employee representative. However, Executive Vice President James made such a condescending remark towards me on stage that the venue instantly burst into murmurs. "Then I will decline," I said, handing the microphone to Executive Vice President James. At that moment, one of the directors, with a pale face, came running with a smartphone. The moment Vice President James saw the screen of the offered smartphone, his face turned pale as well. "My name is Richard Anderson, 40 years old. I work as the head of the System Sales Management Department at a major recycling shop company that operates about 100 stores nationwide. After graduating from the local technical high school, I went to a vocational school to learn its skills and got a job at my current company. At that time, online sales were rapidly expanding, and students with its skills and knowledge like mine were in demand. There were few students with specialized knowledge about the growing internet society. Riding the wave of the times, I successfully joined a major company, even among students from prestigious universities. Moreover, our company president, who built this company from a small pawn shop into a large enterprise, valued sincerity in work over academic background. Nowadays, interviews are handled by the HR department, but back then, the president personally interviewed all new employees. I was one of those hired directly by the president. This company doesn't just engage in the mere business of selling items to customers. We buy items customers have cherished and connect them to the next customer. I believe the connection between people is most important. What about you? The president's face was stern, and his question pierced my heart. He probably wasn't fully convinced about the new sales method of online selling that we were about to enter. I understand that doing business as usual won't suffice in the future. However, in a situation where we must do what other companies are doing, there's a feeling of reluctance to easily abandon our existing values, he added. But I felt a sense of respect for the president, who honestly shared his feelings with me. My father runs a barber shop, so I understand the importance of customer connections. However, the increasing demand for online sales also reflects customers' desires. I believe the time has come when I can meet those desires with my skills. I replied, my hands sweaty from nervousness. The president nodded and said, "I see. You argue that we should pioneer online sales for the customers. Yes, technology exists to diversify people's lives and enjoyment. As long as we keep that in mind, we can deliver satisfaction to more customers than ever before," I explained. The president laughed at my response. It's rare to have a young person ask me a question in an interview. If you had only talked about the company's performance without mentioning the customers, I would have had a negative impression of online sales. I agree with your thoughts. And so, I was hired as a member of the team to launch online sales, leading to where we are today. In online sales, where we can't see each other's faces, more care must be taken than in-store sales. Additionally, online reviews significantly impact sales and the company's image. In a physical store, a sincere apology can prevent a small problem from escalating. But online, such issues can become major because the apology isn't visible. I've always told the team to respond to customer comments as quickly as possible, within seconds if we can. We've also worked hard to create a user-friendly and clear website. Customer complaints were directed to me immediately so I could address them promptly. Unlike physical stores, online sales have no closing hours, essentially operating 24/7. It's only natural that the person in charge is always available when the store is open. From the launch to when things stabilized, I kept my eyes on the continuous stream of feedback. However, in the beginning, it was hard for others to understand our efforts. There were no tech-savvy people among the existing employees, so our department was often criticized for excessive overtime, supposedly tarnishing the company's image. This criticism was especially strong from Executive Vice President James, who joined from a finance company a few years ago and is related to the president. "You could probably open 3 stores downtown with the money spent on hiring you and advertising costs," he would say. Every time I heard those words, I secretly fueled my determination to boost our online sales. Thanks to that determination, our online sales system improved daily. With the impact of our extensive online advertising, we had a strong start. 5 years later, we ranked first in customer reviews on online sales sites, and our recognition skyrocketed. As domestic demand grew, we also created a site for international sales to meet the rising inbound demand. I directly requested my boss to hire multilingual staff. However, even then, Executive Vice President James made snide remarks. Can a highly skilled linguist work with someone with your low academic background? Executive Vice President James, with his prestigious education, particularly looked down on me, who graduated from a technical high school and vocational school as a technician. I never cared much about academic backgrounds, but I started wondering if it was important, not because of James's remarks, but because I saw my own children growing up. My wife, Mary, wants to provide our elementary school son, Tom, with a gifted education. I think it might be too early for an elementary schooler, but she is determined. In today's world, it's necessary to start education early. Everyone is doing it. If we, as parents, don't keep up, Tom won't be able to keep up with others, Mary argued. Her words had some merit. It might be better for Tom to get into a good university to avoid condescending remarks from highly educated people like Executive Vice President James. I was determined not to let my son go through the same experiences I had. Around that time, the company decided to launch a new business, hiring 80 new graduates and young mid-career recruits, the largest number ever. Until now, the job offer ceremony had been held in the company's conference room, but due to the large number of attendees, we rented a hotel event hall in the city. At this ceremony, I was personally appointed by the president to give a 10-minute speech as the employee representative in front of the new employees. Normally, only executives give speeches, but this time, the president specifically chose me. I couldn't agree immediately. Speaking for 10 minutes in front of people is a daunting task. My words could influence the feelings of the new employees. Don't worry, and I'm not worried either. Just talk about what you've done and what you think. It will surely resonate with the young people, the president said. With these words, I had no choice but to accept. The day of the ceremony. The day of the job offer ceremony arrived. Executive Vice President James was the MC, and I had a bad feeling, which unfortunately came true. After the president's address, James announced, "We have words from Richard Anderson, the head of the System Sales Management Department, as the employee representative. Let me give you a brief introduction to him." Introduction? I hadn't heard anything about this. What was he going to say about me? After graduating from the prestigious UCB, I worked at a major financial institution for 20 years. Then, at the president's request, I joined this company as an executive. On the other hand, he graduated from a rundown local technical high school, went to vocational school, and luckily rode the wave of the times to get here, James said, looking directly at me. His next words stung. His low-level education is an embarrassment to the company. The atmosphere in the room became tense. Such a remark suggesting an education filter could easily cause a scandal in today's world. James added, "Though I thought this way, it's undeniable that he has ridden the wave of the times and boosted the company's performance. I hope his words can inspire hope in many of you. Now, over to you, Richard." With a sneer, James handed me the microphone. My response: I took the microphone, looked at the 80 new employees sitting before me, and took a deep breath. "Then I will decline," I said. My words caused a stir in the venue. "What are you saying?" James whispered, trying to cover up his shock. I was fed up with his spiteful remarks. What was he thinking, saying such things in front of young people full of dreams and hopes at this job offer ceremony? Usually how someone views a person without an academic background is their personal opinion. However, this was a public event. The audacity of imposing his own values as if they were righteous was appalling. There are quite a few technical students among the attendees, not just graduates from prestigious universities. How can you say such terrible things? I thought to myself. I handed the microphone back to James and said, "I don't want to be an embarrassment to the company, so I will decline the speech. Instead, I'd like to request a 10-minute speech from Executive Vice President James, a graduate of the prestigious UCB. I'm sure it will resonate with the new employees. The once buzzing venue had fallen silent. The students seemed to be listening intently to the conversation on stage. The impact. Please don't misunderstand me, everyone, I continued, raising my voice so it carried across the room. I love this company. I respect the president who acknowledged my efforts. That's why I want to speak up when something feels wrong. I believe it's for the good of the company. Richard, enough. Don't disrupt the event. Just read the prepared speech as instructed. James glared at me. A prepared speech? I don't have one, I replied. What? Then why are you here? He asked. I plan to speak my thoughts as they came to me. I don't have any prepared words because those would be from the past. The moment words are written down, they become old, just like academic credentials. Their glory is only in the past, I said firmly. At that moment, one of the students stood up abruptly. My name is David. I'd love to hear Richard's speech, he said. Following his lead, more young people stood up and started clapping. Richard, everyone wants to hear your words. I will apologize for any offense caused, the president said to me. The one more shocked than me was Executive Vice President James. President, please stop. As the head of the company, apologizing like that will impact the company's image, James pleaded. The president responded sternly. Let me tell you, James, the one currently tarnishing the company's image is you. Think about how rude your words were. No, it's not even a matter of thinking. It's common sense. Don't you have any? The president's stern words echoed through the venue, leaving James speechless. Watching this, I took back the microphone from him and took a deep breath. Now I'd like to offer some words to all of you who represent our future. At that moment, thunderous applause erupted. I waited for the applause to die down and then began to speak slowly. After my 10-minute speech, the applause continued as I left the stage and approached the president. Next to him stood Executive Vice President James, looking grim. However, I no longer felt any anger toward him. Instead, I could look him in the face with a clear mind. At that moment, one of the executives rushed toward the president with a panicked expression. President, this is serious. The audio from this job offer ceremony is being broadcast live on a youth news site. Someone in the audience is secretly streaming it. We need to stop it immediately. The live radio stream was popular among teenagers and young adults. It was a trending platform where viewers could post news articles and videos. Hearing this, James turned pale. What? Who would do such a thing? We need to stop the ceremony and find out who's responsible. But the president intervened. Panicking now is too late. It's already out there. A large number of people have seen it. The question now is how to present this situation positively. The president looked between me and James. There was no time to think. I suddenly grabbed James's arm. What are you doing? He asked, startled. If it ends here, you'll just be the villain. Let's go back on stage. I half-forced James back onto the stage. The room fell silent again, filled with the anticipation of the young audience. Facing the bewildered James, I extended my hand. He stared at me, even more taken aback. What are you doing? It's a handshake for reconciliation. Come on, quickly, I whispered urgently. What are you up to? It's all for the company. We'll make it look like everything that happened was stage. Our conflict was a play to entertain the new hires. At this point, we have to see it through. James, taking a deep breath, grabbed my hand. Not only that, he plastered a smile on his face and addressed the young audience. This was all a prank. Job offer ceremonies often turn into boring events where you endure long speeches from executives, so we staged this drama to create a memorable ceremony. I was amazed he could lie so effortlessly, but now it felt reassuring. Don't worry, everyone, I added. In this company, even if you're talking to a superior, you can speak your mind. We resolve disagreements through discussions, regardless of rank. The venue erupted in laughter from the students. Although it was a bit forced, the incident helped to ease their tension, and the subsequent self-introductions on stage went smoothly and in a friendly atmosphere. In the end, we never found out who streamed the job offer ceremony on the live radio. The audio, video, and account of the poster were deleted. President, it's dangerous to hire someone who would do such a thing. We need to find out who did this, James insisted after the ceremony. Indeed, streaming the audio of the ceremony on live radio was quite bold, the president replied. The audio was streamed from the beginning of the ceremony, not just when your argument started. It was planned from the start. I think this was meant as a message. A message? James asked, looking puzzled. I don't know the intent, but it's not good for us to become paranoid. If we start a public witch hunt, we might lose these new hires. That would waste the HR department's efforts. Let's observe the situation for a while, the president suggested. I nodded in agreement with the president's words. The real issue is James's remarks. Talking about academic background in such a way is inappropriate in this age of diversity. I asked you to join this company because of your skills, not your degree. I'm not belittling lower academic backgrounds, James argued. However, if academic achievements are disregarded, the United States will lose its competitiveness. Students' academic abilities are declining, and fewer young people aim for university than before. I could understand James's point. In fact, my older brother was academically gifted from childhood, graduated from a prestigious university, and now holds a government position. From a young age, my parents prioritized my brother. On the other hand, I was bad at studying and spent my school days engrossed in games and comics, doing only what I liked. Meanwhile, my brother, pale-faced, attended supplementary lessons early in the morning, went through rigorous classes at his high-ranking school, and even attended cram school. I remember he would come home late at night, always looking exhausted as he ate dinner. I could never be so dedicated to studying. When my brother passed his university entrance exams with flying colors, I congratulated him, and he said, "You should do what you love for a living." It was an unexpected remark. I had braced myself to hear him tell me to study more to reassure our parents. Now that we're both married and living our own lives, we only talk during holidays. But I remember his words every time I see him. My brother graduated from UCB. I saw firsthand how hard he studied, so I know getting into a prestigious university isn't easy. Executive Vice President James looked shocked. What? Your brother graduated from UCB? Yes, he's a kind and hard-working brother. Executive Vice President James suddenly dropped his shoulders and sighed. The words you spoke on the stage were true, something I said. Honestly, I was so angry at the time that I almost lost control and didn't remember what I said to him. You said that academic achievements are in the past. At my age, I sometimes get tired of bringing up past glories. Actually, my son suddenly dropped out of college and went on a trip. What? Suddenly? A trip? Why so abruptly? I exclaimed in surprise. I didn't even know James had a son. Despite working in the same company, we knew nothing about each other. I have no idea why, he admitted. He had never been rebellious, was diligent in his studies, and had top grades. When he told me he was dropping out, I couldn't help but yell at him. Then he went on a trip. But while arguing with you on the stage, I had a realization. Maybe I was suppressing him. I was projecting my past self onto him, thinking only about myself and not about his life. James looked sad, and I didn't know what to say. If James apologizes to Richard and reflects on this, we'll overlook the incident. Richard, can you forgive him? Yes. I also regret reacting so strongly and causing a scene. James said, I'm sorry. I didn't say it aloud, but I hoped he would reconcile with his son. A few months later, the day came when the new employees started their first day at work. 3 new hires joined the system sales management department, and one of them looked familiar. You're the one from that time. Your name is David, right? When I called out to him, he smiled brightly and responded, Yes, I'm honored that you remember me. I see you're an engineer. I look forward to working with you. Likewise, I'm excited to be here. His energetic voice echoed, and I felt genuinely pleased to have such a lively newcomer. However, during the welcome party for the new employees, David told me something unexpected. Actually, I was the one who streamed the audio from the job offer ceremony on live radio. I've deleted the account now, so I can't prove it. But I wanted to confess. I didn't want to hide it from you, Richard. I couldn't hide my surprise at his sudden confession. What? Why did you do that? During the interview, Executive Vice President James mocked me for being a high school graduate. I thought I'd be rejected, but then I got the offer. He probably didn't mean it that seriously, but I wanted to get back at him somehow. So that's why you did it? If you had been caught, you could have lost the offer and harmed yourself in the process. David shrugged and apologized quietly. I'm sorry, but after hearing your words, Richard, I wanted to work with you. I was shocked when you started arguing on stage. The live news viewership spiked. It was hilarious, even if it was just a prank. Well, actually, it wasn't a prank. Executive Vice President James and I were genuinely arguing. But when we realized it was being streamed live, we pretended it was a prank. David looked delighted. Really? That was a real fight? Yeah, it's embarrassing for grown-ups, but that's the truth. So let's just pretend we never had this conversation. Since that incident, Executive Vice President James stopped making snide remarks toward me. In fact, recently, he even shared a personal story when we crossed paths. Actually, I talked to my son 2 days ago. It was the first time since he left for his trip. He seemed well. He's traveling around Southeast Asia now. Really? That's great to hear. I'm sure dropping out of college was something he needed to do for himself. It wasn't just about rebelling against you. James gave a small, wistful smile and said, yeah. One day, I came home to find Mary sorting through her clothes. She was taking out the fancy outfits we bought for the entrance exams and packing them into a cardboard box. Are you taking those to the cleaners? I asked. Mary shook her head. No, I'm selling them at the flea market. They were quite expensive. I said, not understanding her reasoning. Why? Don't we need them? Aren't we preparing for Tom's transfer exams? I gave up on that, she replied. Watching the other moms, it all seemed so ridiculous. They're all desperately trying to show off their kids, but none of the kids looked like they were having fun. But Tom said he wanted to transfer, didn't he? Mary stopped and looked down. Tom looked the least happy among those kids. I realized I was ignoring his feelings. He didn't want to leave his friends at his current school, but he kept quiet and went along with it. I gently put my hand on her back as she looked down, feeling sad. I see. But Tom has grown up enough to consider his parents' feelings. Mary looked up and smiled. Yes, he's a kind child. I realized he can live a happy life without gifted education. I think so too. There will come a time when our child will want to leave us. Until then, we'll watch him grow slowly. I decided to look forward to that day when it eventually comes.